Morning, I'm back in work after a good night's sleep, so feeling a tiny bit better today. It's pouring with rain outside. I saw a message on the internet today to say that the heatwave is officially over. We only actually had one day of sun. I don't really think that's a heatwave, is it? But anyway, it's raining again today, so I'm thinking about starting to build an ark because it's just not stopped since last year. COVID's circulating again. I know some of you out there don't believe in COVID. And a massive number of the team are all off at the same time, so we have just created a black alert to say that it is emergencies only. I also know that some of you think doctors don't actually do anything. All I can say is you will miss us when we're gone. So anyway, I guess it's time to just buckle down and try and work really hard, and I guess I will see you again in about 14 hours' time. Right, just quickly before I get cracking on my first patient, I've just had a message from Tamsin to say that the one egg that we did get has fertilised successfully. So I guess we just see how things go over the next few days now. You can tell that the admin team have had a really tough day when you come in and the printer looks like this. And I'm finished. Despite it being understaffed today, surprisingly it was an easier day than usual. We were basically only seeing emergencies, and ironically often the emergency stuff is the easiest stuff. The complex stuff are the long-term, untreatable, impossible to manage kind of problems for people who've tried absolutely everything and nothing's worked. Anyway, that's me off home now, so I have dinner ready-made from yesterday and I'm looking forward to having it. Morning, this is just a quick day in the life kind of video. I'm whispering slightly because Tamsin's still asleep, although she does have the market today. After a few fairly heavy videos, I thought it would be nice to have something fairly low-key. Anyway, that's me up and showered and feeding the birds before I head off into work. It's a bit of a busy week this week. We have a couple of our doctors off with the old corona. So I'm doing about a 60-hour week. Sometimes people wonder how we get through, and occasionally I get asked, do you smoke or drink coffee? And the answer is, I always drink it. Anyway, I'm just logging in now, waiting for the computer to load up and see what's on the list. I can see I've got 2 steroid injections on there already, which is a bit worrying because there appears to only be 1 vial of the steroid medication left in the practice. So I'm going to check the cupboard in a moment and see if there is any more which has arrived. For those that don't know, when I'm talking about steroid injections, I'm not talking about the bodybuilding stuff. I'm talking about an anti-inflammatory medication which can be injected into places like joints and the like. Probably means more to medical folk than other people, unless you've actually got the condition, in which case you probably know all about it. I've spent the start of the week working out of the boss's room. Now, you'd think that as the senior partner in the practice, he would get the best room in the practice, but the reality is it's a little broom cupboard. So thanks to him for giving everyone else the better rooms. Right, so that's me all logged in. Apart from the injections, I only have one other patient booked in on the list. This is somebody who has announced to the Department of Work and Pensions that they are feeling suicidal. Now, why on earth somebody who is being assessed with a view to having all of their benefits, i.e. all of their finances being taken away, might tell the Department of Work and Finances that they're feeling suicidal? Who knows? Thanks to the Department of Work and Pension. On top of that, I leant back in my chair yesterday and broke one of the wheels. So now my chair's not moving around properly. Thankfully, I've got a couple of spare wheels at home from the last time I did exactly the same thing. One patient in, I'm already half an hour late. It was an injection, should have been quite straightforward, but they were a little bit worried about it, needed to talk through the pros and cons of the procedure. I did get a good morning hug from one of my friends when I got in, and they've just done a COVID test and they're positive. So that's an interesting turnout for the books as well. And 2 patients in, the next one was a little bit anxious, which means I am even further behind. Also meant that they wriggled while I was doing the procedure, which is always more interesting when you're trying to do injections. And I've kept my head down for a little bit while I've got on with my clinic this morning. That's all my face-to-face appointments seen. A few of the people have been in with easy things, skin rashes, skin lesions, that sort of thing, fairly straightforward. But there's been a few huge psychological issues that I've dealt with or helped with this morning. They take a bit of time if you want to deal with them properly. Anyway, I'm now running miles behind, so I need to try and catch up. I've got a few phone calls to make. Thankfully, only one of them is psychological because they always take a little bit longer to do. There's certain terms that we see that make our heart absolutely sink, and one of them is when a patient says, "I can't cope anymore." Obviously, that's an awful thing for them to be experiencing, but at the same time, usually the problem is to do with the coping more than the physical problem. That's another team member down with COVID, so I'm back to wearing masks again. I'm just off to grab some lunch and visit Tamsin over in the market. Hopefully she's still there and not gone home because it's windy. There's no hot food at the market. I have got myself some tiffin, so that'll do for now, and I'm heading back into work again. Just have a look at this. Actually made by one of the local cancer care nurses who decided that actually making cakes for the market was better than nursing. Well, the day's going swimmingly. Just had a complaint in from a patient. It does make me wonder why I bother sometimes.
This was somebody with quite a complex problem who I spent hours running around, arranging for hospital, arranging an admission, speaking to the specialist, writing letters, arranging transport, arranging ambulance, sorting everything out. Unfortunately, it looks like whoever I did a referral to forgot to write the patient's name in the book, and because the ambulance service are snowed under, they took longer to get the patient to hospital than expected, and because the patient's chosen to live an hour plus away from the hospital when they don't have access to any sort of transport.
So there's lots of people that messed up. This person who I could have easily fobbed off has now put in a complaint. So yeah, I'm off about that. I've just worked out one of the problems with trying to do a day in the life kind of video. Most of the stuff that I see during the day is completely confidential, so even though I'm desperate to share what I'm seeing and who I'm speaking to during the day, I can't. Though, it has been a bit of a mental health day today. Pretty much everyone I've seen has had hugely complicated social circumstances and some mental health problems as a complication of that. In fact, I've still got 2 people left to phone. One of them is a pure mental health consultation, and the other is actually someone I spoke to last week who is basically struggling with the consequences of his own actions. He's finding the consequences really difficult to deal with, but despite that, he's not prepared to stop the thing which is causing him all the trouble. So we're in a bit of a catch-22. I'm looking forward to going round and round in circles with that particular person, talking about the same thing over and over again.
Him telling me how he's particularly worried about the symptoms, me telling him to stop doing the thing which is causing the symptoms, him telling me that he's really worried about the symptoms, me telling him to stop doing the thing and I can't do anything apart from advise him to stop doing what's causing it, him telling me that he's really worried about it and he can't imagine what could possibly be causing the problem, me telling him what's causing it, him telling me he still can't possibly imagine what might be causing it, me telling him again, him telling me again, and backwards and forwards and so on and so forth.
Anyway, I'm going to have a cracker before I get cracking on those 2. Literally a cracker with loads of butter on. Well, that's the computer switched off and I'm finally leaving. It's been a bit of a rough day, to be completely honest. Literally every single person was really complicated, so it's been a bit exhausting, but that's the way it goes sometimes. In fact, that's the way it goes every time, every day at the moment, which is a bit frustrating. As ever, most of the time seems to be spent chasing my tail because, well, it seems sometimes like nobody else wants to do their job properly and I have to fill in the pieces. I'm sure that's not the case, but that's the way it feels. Anyway, it's Homeo time. Just home to another invoice from the fertility team for another £100 for medications. It's a bit frustrating because I thought we'd paid for everything, but it's also frustrating as we're only on round number 2 and we've had quite light treatment, and if we've spent all but £100 of our medication budget, it also means that the next round is going to be probably £1,000 worth of medications again, which is a bit of a shock when I'd only just got my head around all the money that we've spent. Anyway, I've filled up the bird food dispensers again, ready for tomorrow. It's changed from being a horrible day to actually being quite a nice evening, so I'm thinking I might make myself a little bit of dinner and see if I can get out for a little walk before the sunset. Well, I didn't quite make it out of the house before the sun went down, and I've not actually made my dinner yet either, so that's a fail. First job though is to make my lunch for tomorrow and the next day, and hopefully for the next week or two. What I'm actually going to do is make a portion of couscous, which I really like, and I will take you through that. So here we go with my couscous recipe. Firstly the couscous, then on top of that I have
tomato, garlic, salt, onion, paprika, thyme, rosemary, coriander, nutmeg, cinnamon, garam masala, cumin, fenugreek, and a little bit of cayenne pepper. And then just because there's not a lot of stuff in there, I've got a little bit of powdered cheese to add in at the end.
This one's my favourite, it's the paprika. Oh, I love this stuff. Loads of that one. Then some salt. Quite a lot because this is about 15 portions in here. Bit more for good look. Cayenne pepper. I always put this in after something white so I can see how much I've got in there. Touch of cinnamon, not too much. Fenugreek, again, not too much. Garam masala, a bit more generous. Cumin. Oops. Nutmeg, another one of my favourites, but don't need too much of that one. Ground coriander, again, not too much. Thyme. Rosemary, like the famous chef on the television, who I think is no longer on the television and has possibly died. And last of all, the all-important magic cheese powder. It's ever so lazy because it's basically dried strong cheese.